And so when we can help families use some of those cognitive skills so that they can respond rather than react, right? I'm going to pause. I'm going to take my time. I don't have to answer that text message right this minute. I can go out and take a walk or meditate or listen to music or do things that will help me get back to my place of regulation so that I can make this decision not in a reactive way, but in a way that I think is best for me and for my loved one.
Well, we can't make good decisions from a place of panic and fear and rage and frustration.
And, when we first discover that our loved one is using, there's so much fear. And that fear, I always say manipulation, control, conflict, those are safety grabs. When I feel unsafe, then I'm going to try to manipulate my world so I can feel safe. When I feel like my life is at risk or my person's life is at risk, I'm going to try to control things so that it might feel less at risk, right? If my loved one was jumping off a cliff, I'd want to go save them. I want to grab them. And that's a natural reaction. And yet in substance use, sometimes it's not a helpful reaction. So responding rather than reacting and thinking about how we're going to walk through even minor moments and decisions. And I get to see families radically change because they decide that instead of being shaming or nagging or blaming, they're going to be kind and compassionate. Instead of saying, well, of course you lost your job, you idiot. Why wouldn't you think you would lose a job because you're using on the job? A family member might choose to say, wow, that sounds really hard. I'm sorry that happened. Acknowledging and validating the suffering and the experience of other people makes them human and makes us human. So learning how to step back. We have a family in our group, and this mom and dad, their daughter, 15 years in active use, has had every trauma happen to her, was abusing some medications that were intended to help. And they had hardly any contact with her. And last night they shared in our group that, and they've been sharing all along the progress that they've been making with their daughter, and they've not even come for a year to our group. And their daughter is now on Suboxone, using it as prescribed, going to her mental health appointments, taking her medications, and showing up for her son. The son is still in the care of an aunt and uncle, but she goes to his gymnastics practices. She has spent more and more time with him. And the parents are just over the moon, thrilled with how this young woman has literally transformed. And this daughter will tell the mom and dad that it's because of the way that mom and dad started interacting with her and how they changed. And the beauty is they're seeing other family members change as well. So, the siblings are treating this girl differently. The aunt and uncle who watched the child are treating this mama differently. So it's not just a shifting in the parent-child relationship. It's literally the whole family that has changed as a result of just really being intentional and treating this person humanely. So yeah.
Conflict. It's like that this wasn't the go-to and from the start.
Right.
It just seems like so counterintuitive. But yeah, to be kind. And using the other beautiful thing about these techniques and learning how to communicate more compassionately is it's going to help you in all your relationships, not just the ones for the loved ones who are, affected by substances. I mean, it could be anyone. You could see your work relationships improved, your relationship with your spouse or partner. It's like, it's really a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and that's one of the really fun things is that most of the people that come to support groups are women. Let's just face it. Men don't often seek out help. And yet what's happening is these women are coming back and reporting that their relationships with their spouses have gotten so much better because they're using these tools and skills with their spouses as well. So yeah, it is beautiful. And then the other, we talked about regulate, and then we evaluate them where they at. We help them work set goals and build a family recovery plan when we do that one-on-one work. And then we have an educational component. So it's psychosocial education. It's the brain science of addiction. It's how can we interact more effectively, communication skills. And then the last part of it is what we call the collaboration. So it's regulate, educate, collaborate, and evaluate. And that collaboration is then how can we reconnect? We always say that, connection equals relationship, which equals influence. And when parents want to help, or spouses, because we work with a lot of spouses, there has to be this awareness that if I'm not connected to this person, if I don't at least have some relationship with them that's based on shared humanity and shared suffering and kindness and compassion, then when the time comes, why would I imagine that they would come to me for help and support, right? So we know that based on the data that's been put out there, families, and this is the social determinants of health, families have the most influence in their loved ones' lives. When you look at social determinants of health, 90% of that model is social familia. The only 10% is clinical. There was a study that Judith Landau did, who's part of the ARISE method, and it said that one healthy family member has the same impact as 5 clinicians. So, equipping family members with some of these really high level, motivational interviewing and the community reinforcement approach were both therapeutic modalities that then were reworked and remodeled to equip families. And so they've been studied, and there's tons of data and research. And the beauty of this is you can go to Al-Anon and still use these practices. It's not one or the other. And we don't want to pit a certain thing against another. What I do speak out a lot against is language. And so, in our work,
We're going to touch on that too. Absolutely. We got to go there for sure. Good.
Well, and I do always go there because, I think that addiction is an experience, not an identity. I'm a runner, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, I'm an athlete, I climb mountains, I had tons of trauma, I came from a very chaotic, dysfunctional background, and all of those things are parts of who I am. It's a part of who I am, but it isn't, I don't call myself just one thing when I meet people. I call myself my name. And so we really stay away from stigmatizing, I think, and there is research. So this isn't just my ideology. And in fact, in Minnesota, our state, DHS, did some research on language and the stigma of language. And there's a lot of information that you can find on the SAMHSA website, on the Faces and Voices website. And what it showed was that it actually prevented loved ones from getting help. That the term addict or alcoholic was so stigmatizing that when people use that, it created more resistance than when they just use their name or use non-stigmatizing language.